Hello, guys. Welcome to today's program. Hi, Rita. How are you doing today?
Hello, Melody. Another day. Finally, we had a stream on
Yeah,
Deno.
yeah. Uh, it was crazy, but uh, yeah, we're here, so I'm happy.
Yeah, we had some issues with our We were supposed to stream this last Saturday, but we had some issues with our internet. But thank God it worked today. So we're going to be doing the stream today.
Yeah, I think it was global. It
Yeah,
was one
it's
of the ocean internet or something like that.
yeah, it was global. It was around West Africa and the whole sub internet cable thingy. Yeah,
Anyways, I'm happy you're having this today,
yep,
and it's an exciting topic. Awesome.
yeah. All right. So without wasting much of the time, um, yeah, let's jump right in. So first of all, we'll be doing two things. We'll be discussing Deno or Dino, as it's pronounced. After that, we'll go through some slides and then we'll go through the code to like see how we could build stuff with Dino. Right. So yeah, let's continue. So today we're going to be discussing building a backend with Dino. Dino is a very interesting runtime. It's a very interesting project as well. So first of all, what is Dino? Before you want to talk about something, you want to know what that stuff is. So if you know Node.js, you already know Dino. Okay. So Dino is just another runtime, not just another runtime because it fixes some problem which we are going to discuss. So Dino is a runtime for JavaScript, right? So with Node.js, usually JavaScript was a browser meant to run on the browser, right? It's a language meant to run on the browser. But then, because people love JavaScript, people like me, people like Melody, we love JavaScript. So we're like, people like that, we're like, okay, could we do the same thing on the server? Because, on the server is a different environment to run JavaScript. So for that to be possible, that's why we have something like Node.js, which tries to polyfill some of the browser JavaScript related APIs and tries to do the system calls and tries to do the networking and all that. So if you know Node.js in a nutshell, you already know Dino. Dino is just it's another runtime, but Dino comes to fix some problem with Node.js. All right. So Dino was announced at JSConf in 2008 by Ryan. Ryan is actually still the creator of Node.js, and in his talk where he talked about the 10 things he regretted about Node.js. So as I said before, Dino comes to fix most of the problems with or the common problems with Node.js. Right. So it was co-created by Ryan Dahl. Also, it has the following core components, which is one is the V8 engine. The V8 engine is created by Google, works inside Chrome, and is also being used by Node.js. Okay, so we have Rust. Initially, Dino was actually built with Go, but because Rust provides some, tends to become faster and more, you know, provides more environment to do something like this. And then the contributors, which the major one is Ryan. Ryan decided to switch to Rust. And then you have the Tokyo. Tokyo is a library that it's used for most of the networking thing when it comes to Rust. Okay. Then next we have TSC. TSC is just a TypeScript compiler. All right. So I had to do some projects with Dino, and I've loved the ecosystem. The fact that he has native TypeScript support. Me, I've been writing TypeScript, and I'm a huge fan of using TypeScript. So yeah, so this is some major things you get when it comes to a next generation runtime for JavaScript like Dino.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah. So after looking at these beautiful things, understanding what Dino comes who created, which as I mentioned, Ryan created Node.js also. So he looked at it and was like, okay, now let's fix some issues with Node.js. And then he came up with Dino. Because currently he's no longer contributing to Node.js, as I think he stopped a while ago before he decided to create Dino. Okay, so after we've seen all these things we've learned a bit about Dino. Now let's actually learn what Deno offers. Why would you want to use Deno instead of Node.js? Okay, so one of the major things or one of the major problem with Node.js was actual security. Security was a problem. That is, a simple linter program could have access to your network, could have access to files, to read files and all that, right? So you need to start to worry about ensuring and doing security checks for dependencies. When you install a library, let's say you install an ESLint library, you want to make sure that that library has no security pitfalls, it has no security issues, so that it doesn't access your servers and do stuff with it or run scripts and all that. So that's or normally Node.js programs are not secured. That is, when you install a dependency, they all have access to your file system and also can make network calls. All right. So Deno comes to solve that problem. All right. Deno is secured by default. As you would see in the coding section, you would see Melody trying to give access to, in the scripts, you see him trying to give access to like file system, to network and all that. All right. So you can see in the slides there we have like network access. You can see an example of running a script to allow network access. You can also see file access. You can see how to restrict or allow file access. You can see that with the Deno run hyphen allow read command. Okay, so first one, security. The next one is network performance, right? Everything we build as software engineers is trying to make sure that we please or make the user feel happy, right? You want to deploy an application that is easy to use, that is fast, that responds fine, that is efficient in terms of memory efficient. And so you need to make sure that whatever you're using has high performance in terms of when it comes to network, when it comes to web servers, like as it is Node.js, there used to be web servers. Networking performance, high network performance is a plus. All right. So you can see here that when you can see a benchmark of Deno and Node.js. You can see the number of requests. Deno can process around 200,000 and 59, and you can see that comparing that to Node.js around 94,000, right? 990, something like that. So you can see the difference. You can see that Deno has high network performance. Also, not just that, Deno has support for HTTPS by default, HTTPS encryption. It also supports WebSockets. It also supports HTTP2. HTTP2 is like the new protocol for HTTP 1.0. Is it 1.01? Yeah, which has some fallbacks in sense that it's not like the number of packets requests and all that. So HTTP2 with some improvements and all that. Okay, so we've mentioned two things. We've talked about which security. We've talked about high network performance. Now let's look at other things. Another thing you should know is Deno has backward compatibility with, or it's compatible, not backward compatibility. It's compatible with npm modules, right? So you can see that if you have, let's say you have a project, you try using Deno and you want to use an npm package, you can easily use your npm package in your Deno project. All right. As I mentioned in the beginning, also Deno offers native TypeScript support. So, like for the demo we're going to do, you would not see any TS config around us trying to set up TypeScript and all that. By default, you can write TypeScript in Deno. All right, and then consistent code from browser to backend. So Deno has created a couple of polyfills for things like the fetch APIs and other APIs you can think of. The fetch API is a browser fixed API. Like in Node.js, you cannot use fetch without installing like maybe a different API request library or using something like Node fetch. But when it comes to Deno, all those stuff has already been polyfilled and they are made available for you. So you can use a couple of those browser APIs on the server as well. Okay, so then we have a lot of development tools like your linters, your watchers, your test runners, and all that. Deno has all that covered. Of course, it was built by someone who created Node.js, so he'll bring all of the good things from Node.js, just adding on to it and just trying to fix whatever problem it had initially. Okay. So we've talked a bit about Deno. The next thing to do is actually to write some code. At the end of the day, you want to leave here writing some code. What's more important is the code, right? How you use the project like Deno to implement, create something, maybe write your backend application, write your edge functions and all that. So I would pass the mic to Melody to take us through the project. We're going to be writing an employee contact register.
Okay, guys, that was awesome presentation from Kelechi. And now we'll move down to the code, right? Let me quickly share my screen for that. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, it's loading. I think your screen is up. Your screen is up, but you just need to zoom in a bit. And also, kind of the dark mode is a bit blurry. Will it be okay if we would use something lighter?
Dark mode.
Yeah, it's a bit blurry from my end. Okay, I think this is okay. We can work with this.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I'll just walk you through the code, and we have an understanding of what we have.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to have a link to the startup project just in case.
Is video link that in the chat section?
Yeah, I'll add it to the chat shortly.
All right. So what we have is, like Lechi said, Deno is like Node in most ways, and created by some person. And the essence of Deno was like, probably Node has a lot of pitfalls, and I think I listened to him talk, I think in the keynote or something, where he was like, let's create a better Node environment where we fix a lot of things, right? And one of them is access to network. Deno equally supports other things like high-level awaits. So it means that you could do something like this, awaits, and you could say you could write something like this or whatever you want to do. And this is totally valid Deno. And this is one of the features I love so much, because in regular Node, you have to call a same before awaits. It means you can just write awaits function, and you can except you have a function where you're calling awaits and orders. And those were like it confines you into pattern of writing code and orders, and a couple of should I say limitations and all that. But now let's start from our EMV. So just an EMV example, you could go to the startup projects, startup branch if you want to code along, and just code along with us. And give me a sec for me to do this. So go to the startup branch here. When you're in the startup branch, you could just code along. Now, you can see here we have a couple of configurations. This is a basic README. So this is Deno.json, nothing specific to, I wouldn't say this is specific to Deno because this doesn't come with Deno by default. Deno is as plain as you want to write your web code. You could just have a simple main.ts, do your imports and write your code and everything works. Or if you want to have a configuration, like, the same way you have your package manager and all that, you could have those here. So you could track packages or stuff like that if you want to go extras. You have your tags here. These will be equivalent to, I think, your scripts in your regular NPM. So there you could run your scripts and all that. And these are your imports, right? So you can see that we are importing. This is literally a version of Node Express. We're importing that directly. And Deno allows for just-in-time compilation. So
can you? I think Melody, the font it's a bit difficult to read. So is there a way we could choose a different kind of font? I think the colors are.
Yeah. Let me change that. Let me change my themes. So I'm going to go to color themes.
Yeah, we can use GitHub Dark. Yeah, better GitHub Dark.
Okay. I've been so used to the other one that this looks somehow to me like it looks weird to my eye.
Yeah.
So I hope I can code on this.
Yeah.
So you can see that these are direct links, right? You can see these are direct links. So Deno will just fetch this for you and run your code and all that. So And this is beautiful, right? That way I don't have to install packages and manage and node modules and all that. And of course, you could equally have log files if you want. You could equally have SS node modules on that, depending on what you want as a configuration. Deno allows all that. And you can look at the documentation for that. So Clay should just link the documentation for you if you want to have a look. And so we have the JSON, we have the git ignore, which is literally just ignoring the .env. And in your .env, we just have a port that states the port we want to run this on. And we have a source folder. A source folder literally has a main, our middlewares, because we're going to call some middleware, a repository, browse and all that. So let's look at the main. So what the main is basically doing is, we want to use Express because I've been so used to Express. I feel Express, allows me to do a couple of things. So I just want to use Express just to see as comfortable as writing Node.js. So for the most part, you don't have to compromise on anything using Deno. You're not compromised here, right? So I'm using Express, maybe using .env, right? Course, which is used for a course origin resource, and I'm only having the custom imports from here. So generally, I'm just loading this .env here, and after that, I'm assigning my ports to whatever comes from the env, and if that doesn't exist, there's a default here, and I'm initializing this here. So Express, I'm assigning this to app, and here I have my couple of middlewares. I'm saying I have to use Express to JSON, so I can return JSON the course to allow cross origin resource, and my routes, which are going to be my various routes for this employee app. Now, of course, I want to have just some errors as well, so I have to use this. So when there is an error, I want to consider the error in this through the error stack, and as well as return 500, something broke and all that. So we have this. I have to listening to this port, which is wherever the port is in my .env or this default here, and there's a callback function. So how do I know if my app is running or not? I'm literally just logging this to the console. So we can go ahead and start this. So we could do. I think I have.
Yeah.
This
and
Deno task stats, and this is something you can see here.
Yeah.
A couple of tasks, and we could just run this stats here. This task literally does Deno run the dash A, and it's still we're using a key value stored by Deno, which is currently unstable. So we want to use that, and we are running this in the watch mode, the SRC, and we're calling the new function here.
Yeah, we're running it in the watch mode so that we can locally once to make a change, the server will just restart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely what you do in your node one in regular mode.
Yeah, and we're writing TypeScript.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to run this, and fun fact is that I'm not compiling this. I love the idea that I don't have to compile this to JavaScript to run it or use any of those, compilers and stuff like that. I could run this and Deno runs it for me. So if this is Node, you have to literally compile this or use any of those. And Deno is like, I support this by default, so you don't have to do that. So if I run this now, we're going to see that it's going to run the task, start and run this, and our server is up, which is really fast. So let's look at the routes, right?
Yep.
So we have a couple of these. We have a default route here, which is slash. So let's go to, okay, I think I'm just sharing my browser. I'm just sharing my IDE. So let's go to a browser tab here. So I'm going to share my entire screen.
Okay.
That's okay. So I'm going to share this. Okay, so I'm going to go to localhost for 8,000. You can see here we are returning hello from Kojam. And if I change this to something like, let's say hi, and save.
I think you need to zoom in a bit on the browser. It's a bit not too, yeah, so cool.
So you can see I've changed this to hi and I've saved. And I think this should refresh automatically for me. This is the essence of watching your code, right? Let me know if this is okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, wonderful. So let's start adding
So
some
I
code.
think you want to maximize the screen and then use slide in and slide out. So yeah, cool.
Okay, I think,
Yeah, then you want to zoom in here.
okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so you want to zoom in. Yeah, so just use, yep. Yep. So zoom in here on the code.
does
Yeah.
this work?
Yeah, this
Now,
works.
it's always all the way into my face, right?
Yeah, we need to see what you're doing.
Yeah, this is okay. Anyways.
Yeah.
So here we have a couple of, have the API routes, right? And this API is where we want to handle all our employee stuff here. So you can see here we equally have the services. So services are like, the business logic and all that. So
Yeah.
you can see we have identity service, we have the add employee service, we have the get employee by ID, we have the get all employees, and we have the remove employees. So if I go back to my route here, right?
Yeah.
In the slash, which is the get employees, API slash, I want to get all employees, right? So generally I could just call the services, right? And say get all employees.
Okay, so sorry, Melody. So just to get you correctly, we're trying to build a contact register for employees, right? So
Yes.
where it's basically a CRUD where you create employee, you update an employee, and then you can also delete an employee, and also you can get a list of employees, right?
Yes.
So these are the different routes to do that.
Yes.
Okay, so currently we're working on the route to get an employee, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
All right. So sorry for not explaining that. Generally, we have a contact form, an employee contact form where you could, let's say, an organization, you want to manage all the employees in the organization. So you want to, be able to save an employee into the database. In this case, we'll be using the Deno key install.
Okay.
Built into Deno, so we don't have to install an extra package or use SQL since it's just a simple demo.
Okay.
And we equally want to have the ability to delete that employee if we want. We
Yeah.
want to be able to view a detail about that employee, specific to that employee, and all that.
Okay.
And all that. So this is we handling that, right?
Yeah.
And I love modularity. So we don't have to write all our code in one place because this is how you write code in the real world, right? So now we have this, right? We have a route and we have the services, we have the get all employees. So this is a promise, right? I could do .then. So when this comes through, we have an employee.
Okay.
Yep. Probably I'm using Copilot and this is giving me a warning.
Okay.
You know what?
So is the method already defined on the service?
Yeah, this method is already defined. So I want to do, okay, .then. No, let me just write this myself. Then, and we have then method, and we want to call this.
Okay.
What is this? Let me see. Oxygen doesn't exist.
So you might want to check the method get all employees inside the services. Let's see what it returns.
Oh, now currently I think we haven't written any code here.
Yeah.
We haven't written any return types here, so it's going to complain. Well, we are going to fix that in a sec. So when we have this, generally what we want to return is we have a data, right? Data that comes with it. So generally we want to return JSON that says, return this data for me. So when I call get all employees, I want to return all the data, right?
Okay.
And same happens with getting a single employee. So could do the same thing. Could do services that I think we can call an ID because now for getting a single employee, you are sending an ID via a request param.
Okay.
Right? And we get stars here, we call this. If there is an ID here, we could even do a small validation where we have like, say if ID, we could call this, and if there's an ID, we want to go ahead and run this. Else, if not, else, I don't even need to add the else here because this is definitely going to return. I could do, please provide an ID. Right?
Okay.
And you can see Copilot is helping me a lot with this code. And here we have the post. This post is definitely how you're going to, create an employee. And because there are a couple of data coming through, the employee,
request body.
An employee here through the request. You want to probably assign an employee name, an email, and stuff like that. That means we have to do some validation, and that is what we are doing here via the middleware. So you can see we have a middleware that validates the employee, and what this middleware does is, it gets the request, the response, the next function, and the employee, we are typing this, the employee, whatever the employee is going to be, is going to come from the request body, right? And we are destructuring that value here. So we are saying name, age, salary, email, phone. So these are likely going to be values that are coming through. I want to see if there is no name or if there is no age, salary, or email or phone, return these missing required inputs. Else, we are saying if type of name is not a string, because name must be a string, age should be a number, salary should be a number, and so someone doesn't type salary like Armageddon or something like that or something crazy, right?
Yeah.
The type of email is a string, right?
Okay.
And we can even do a regex here to validate email and all that. Or we can also handle that from the front end if we want. But for this simple demo, we'll just do that. If any of this we want to return, that there's invalid data type for the field, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we want to call next. And what this next does is continue with the next function.
Yeah.
And in that case, this would be the next function, which is this call back here, or this next other function here. So in that next function, we want to, right? So we have the const employee, we do request the body, we call services of add employee, but then whatever the data is, we want to return that data with the 201 because we're saving. We could equally use 200 here, or 201 seems okay.
Yeah, 201 is right for post request creating record. Yeah.
And the deletes, we are doing the same thing. We are getting a request from, the ID from, generally we're getting the ID from the parameter. And if there's an ID you want to call delete employee, right? I believe there is a services of delete employee here. If I view in here, we have remove employee instead. So I'm going to copy this. So call services of remove employee here, right? And then, we're doing whatever we want to do. And if there's if this happens, we want to return 204 because this is actually a delete, right? So else we want to return 400. Please provide an ID in this case. So this is a basic router.
Yeah, it's still the same thing you get with any Node.js project using Express. No, nothing different.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And in this case, we could have even written every logic here, but we feel that would defeat the purpose of modularity, and we don't want to do that. So going into the get all employee, let's start implementing these services. So in the get all employee, we have the get all employee, add employee. Now we're getting the type of here you can see we are saying that employee is going to be on the type of I employee because we have done our validation and we believe this is going to return an I employee. So how do we get all employee, right? We have a repository here. So once you let the repository handle everything that has to do with database connection or key store connection and all that. So what we're going to be doing generally is we have a couple of these in the repository. We have, you can see the get by ID, we can see the get all. So in this case, we want to just call the repository.get all. That's all, right?
Okay.
So let's do that. We go to the services and we say return, right? Return the repository dot get all, right? And this get all is going to definitely, return whatever is in the repository dot get all.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take in any of parameters and all that.
Okay.
So we have get by ID, right? We have an ID coming through, and we already have in the repository here, we already have something that gets by ID handled already for us. So we just call repository.get by ID, right? So in here, we say return repository.gets by ID, and that handles that for us as well. So actually, this is an add employee. So this was a mistake from my end.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so we are going to handle that. So we are returning get all, and remove employee. If we want to remove employee, we have, I think we have a functionality for that. Is that remove by ID? Let's see, remove by ID, of course. Thank you, Copilot.
Copilot is helping you.
So return, and sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes I beg it to just work, and it's like slow and all that. So, but today it's very helpful. So today, let's talk about how do we add employees, right? First of all, we want to store employee by an ID, right? We want to use something like UUID to make every employee unique in that sense. So we want to generate that UUID. So I'm going to say const, let's say employee ID. I could use mad the random, but that's not unique at all. I think mad the random, there's a possibility that you could generate the same ID and then we'll have issues.
Yeah.
So let me import UUID. So I'm going to do import this from. So you can see in the Deno JSON you have UUID already here. So I could just do that. So going back to the service, I'll say this is equals to.
You're yet to complete the import.
Yeah, from UUID, right?
Okay.
UUID. So having that, I could destructure, could do true shape here, generates, and of course. And so I could call generates here. I could just generate, and this is going to generate a unique ID every time for me, right?
Yeah.
So if I have this employee ID, then that means I could call return repository does and we'll have save. We're going to pass in the employee and the ID. Let's see how we are calling this save method here. So I'm going to go back to the repository, and this is save. We are passing an ID and we're passing an employee here.
Yeah.
So
two arguments.
Yeah, two arguments. So we are calling the employee ID, which is this one here, and of course, so we have this, and that should be it. So nothing crazy here, nothing fancy here. You can see we literally have, our methods, and these are just referencing different cases. So this is equally beautiful because we are doing modularity, good modularity. And what that means is that, when you want to change code or modify code, you're not, overwhelmed with a ton of code and all that. You have, separation of concern, and you can, do your changes. Now, in our repository, this is where we're going to handle everything that has to do with connections to the DB or keystore or any of that, right? So let's go to our repository and start handling that. So first of all, we have the gets by ID. Now, we are going to be using the Deno key store, right?
Yeah,
so it's called
KV library.
KV library. So we're going to call a const or say KV equals. Now, this is very beautiful because we're going to experience the high level await. So I'm going to say awaits the Deno dot KV or OpenKV. I think it's called OpenKV. Yeah.
Okay.
And and that calls that for us. So we have the KV here. We can start writing code, right? Get by ID, and there is already a suggestion for us. Okay. Now, the way Deno works, or the way the KV works, if you look at the documentation, let's see, is there a way to look at the documentation? Yep, I think, yeah. So the way KV,
you can zoom in.
you see my screen?
Yeah, I see
All
your
right.
screen.
So the way this works is that you have this is a key value pair, right? And you could retrieve data because we want to take from the angle of when we save a data, we want to be able to retrieve it, right? I could store one-to-one in this sense. I could have a key value pair like this, and I could say some random ID, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever, and I'm going to assign this to a bunch of data. Like I'm going to say name is whatever, something like this. And am I wrong? Am I doing something wrong?
Yeah, I mean an object. Now you're declaring an object. It's you have it outside. Can you put it inside the code block?
What? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. I don't think that's the case, anyways. That's not the case.
Okay, so you have a name. Okay.
Yeah, it's a number, then we're doing this, and we're defining this.
Just assign it to a distinct variable, then if you want to actually.
I don't think that's the issue. Well, we could go ahead and explain this.
Just assign it will be easier to assign it to a variable. So that's if you're having an object key where the key is a string and then the value is an object.
Okay. Value. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we have is we could have, or let's say employees, right? Let's just say employees, so we explain this better. Now, we could have these employees here. We could have something like this. Well, and we have another one. Let's say, please help me out. It doesn't.
It does.
It does, yeah, it does. So now, if we have something like this, let me just add one more for to explain this concept. Now, we can have something like this. So if I want to retrieve all these employee in this, right? How do I do that? Right? Let's say I have this employee here. Let's say I don't even have this employee. I'm using one key store. I could have an employee here, and I could have something else. I could have something else in this key store. It could be, let's say, a token or whatever, right? I could be storing something different. I could be storing, different information, real estate information. I could be storing, information about my computer and all that, right? So I could have something like this again, and that could be, let's say, it could be, may not be name. It could be something like, let's say, my budgets, right? So I have budgets for laptop, right? And that laptop is MacBook and whatever, right? So if I want to retrieve just the employee information, how do I do that here? Now that's crazy because this may equally have a name, but it's not specific or it's not related to the employee information. So what I could do is I could have a reference like this. So I could do something like this, and I could reference this way. I could say something like this, and I have some data like this, and I could say this is employee. So the key store of the KV key store allows you to do something like this. And what that means is this: you could then prefix this information, right? You could then prefix this information. So I could have a bunch of these. Do the same for this one here, right? I could say, let me do this one. So I could say this is still an employee. Now, but I'm just going to copy everything here. Replace these items. So I need to change a couple of these and just change this one.
Make it random.
Yeah, make it random. Now I could have this one here
As
and do the same for this and say
budget.
Probably this one is budgets. Now this means that I could retrieve by prefix, right? I could say, okay, in the key store, give me all data that is prefixed with employee. That means I could store a bunch of different things, and Deno is just going to grab all the ones, or the key store is going to grab all the ones with the employee prefix. And this is all in the documentation. If you look at it anyways, I think if you look at it here, where you have, you could set by preference, you have some place, and then you can retrieve based on that prefix here. So if you want to retrieve data, you want to do a get, you're using this prefix here, you're assigning whatever you have. And it's going to retrieve that for you. So you can see here, it gets that for us. Right? So this is the example. I'm going to remove this one. We're going to continue writing code. So we have get by ID. So I'm going to call a key. So I'm going to say const key equals. I'm going to say the key is going to be this thing. So an array prefaced by employee, and there is an ID. So whatever the ID is, right? For my example. And then I could say return. I can start calling the KB, right? So I can return, the awaits the KB that gets whatever, right? Awaits KB that gets key. And this will work for me. Right? So if I save this, okay, I can't test this out because we don't have a create functionality, right? So let's handle a create function. Let's just go.
We could do the create or could finish up.
Whichever. Now, the way you think of the create is, okay, let's have a key. Now, before we set this, we could do this, right? It's going to set it for us. But when we don't want to save a key twice. So what if I'm sending, let's say, because you should write your code in such a way that your code is secure, right? Components are secure by default. So you're not saying that already we're going to have, you don't say something like the route is secure in this code, so I'm just going to leave it open. No. What if that ID is generated twice, right? Then it means that you're going to be overriding whatever is there and all that, right? And you're doing an expensive query and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to call an atomic value. I'm going to save this atomically, right? And what that means is this, right? We are going to start the transaction the same way you start the transaction in your regular database, your SQL and all that kind of stuff. So we have a key here. We want to say, remember the employee data is an employee, right? We're saving the name, age, salary, email, phone, destination, and probably we even want to save the ID alongside it if we want. We could do that. So I could even call const new employee. It's going to be this. So I'm going to spread whatever is in the employee object, and I'm just adding this ID to it. So we'll have an ID and every other information that is in here. So the name, the age, the salary, the email, phone, destination, destination, and all that, right? And destination is optional. So we have this, right? So we have to start a transaction. So I'm going to say atomic. Now I'm starting a transaction. Now I could start doing some checks here. Say to check. First of all, I want to check that whatever key I'm sending, so the key here, right? There's a key, and Deno has this thing called version stamp, right? And the way it works is this: each transaction or each value in the key store has a version stamp. That version stamp could have data in it, so you're assigning this version stamp to be this. This version stamp could have data in it, or it could be null. If it's null, it means that that data is deleted, right? If there's something in it, it means well, this data is actually it's already there, right? So we want to check that this version stamp is null, right? And if it is null, then we can go ahead and set, right? We can go ahead and do this. So we can go ahead and set the key, map the key to the new employee ID, we commit this, right? And when we commit that, since we are already returning this, there's no need of doing that then here.
Okay.
We're waiting this, right? So you can see, just to explain this again, we have atomically, and this is the Deno key.
Way of doing transactions.
Yeah, way of doing transactions. So there's atomic configuration here. Let's see. Yeah, here. There's an example here. So you can see here, you could do res, await Deno.atomic. You could check this, and this checks that no version stamp means no value. So there's no value in that version stamp, right? And you're checking by the key anyways. So you're checking by the key, or this very key, does it has a version stamp that is having a value in it? If it says no, that means there's no value. Now then you can set and you can commit. Commit means like the same way you open this transaction and commit or save in SQL, right? And we could say now after that, we can even assign this to a cons, the same way we have here. So we'll say cons. This is the response. Now, if there is a data in this, so remember, since this is actually checking, it could return a response, right? Or it could return nothing. So if res.ok, response.ok, that means, well, this transaction executed successfully. If that happens, we want to go ahead and return the, now, we want to go ahead and
return the new employee.
Yeah, we want to go ahead and return the employee. So we already have a query because this returns a response of OK, and it does. I don't think if you look at the Deno documentation, I don't think there's a way to actually have that data that is being saved to return to you. Right? I'll have to check. But what we could do is we will call the get by ID by the ID we have. So we'll just call this same method here.
Yeah, but we can just return the new employee since it's still the same record that was saved.
Do you think we can return
the new employee up here?
Yeah, the same new employee.
Yeah.
Right. So, but what this does is you don't have access to a couple of other things like the Deno specifics. But anyways, we could just do return new employee, right?
Yep.
And this should return that. So I believe we can test this out.
Yep. We can. Then if it's not okay, what do we return null or something? But yeah, we can test it out. You can just if you have Postman, you can just spin up Postman.
Okay, let's spin up Postman. Where is it? So say localhost 1000/API do the body, right?
Yeah.
And we do JSON.
You selected JSON, then you change the HTTP verbs to post.
Yeah. Post. And this means I have to, what I feel. Can I grab? Okay, have a name. Have a name. We'll say the name is Michael.
So we have to put the name in quote. Yep.
Jordan.
You can copy your types and paste and just replace the values.
I can, and I will, sir. So where is it?
Yeah, you're still in VS Code.
It's confusing me, right?
Yeah, that stuff happens to me too. Like
what's happening there? What kind of magic is this? So I could say, no, well, let me see Copilot if it can generate for me. Equals name.
Okay.
Thank you, Copilot, sir. Auxiliary, I'm going to say email. Okay. And I'm going to do this.
Yeah. You're still in the VS Code, yeah. So I need to add the codes.
Just is like, I'm not Javascript, you can't write single code here. I can do whatever I want. Okay, so we have this. And so first off, we want to test out, let's test out without the H. So let's test our middleware, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to send this. We'll have a response.
Yeah.
missing required field.
Okay, so our middleware is working.
Yep, it is working. So I'm going to send this again.
Yeah. Missing required fields. What of designation?
No, I don't think designation is required. So let's see.
Okay.
Let's see our repository. So we have name, age, salary, email, phone.
Okay, phone.
Yeah. So we have a phone. Phone is a string, right?
Yep, I think so.
Yep, it's a string. So I'm going to do some random weird number because I can send this. And yeah, we have this data returned for us. You can see. So this works, right?
So why is phone? Okay, phone is there. All right, looks cool.
So can we get by this ID?
Yeah, so let's try the get.
So let's do params.
No, we can just create a new request.
Sure.
Let's just get this one. Yeah, so
do this slash
ID.
right? This is a get.
Yeah.
And we can call this. And you can see it returns that for us.
Right, cool.
Yeah, it returns the version stamp, the key, and every other thing, the employee and everything.
Okay, cool.
Cool. So this works. So
yep, you're still in VS Code.
yeah. Sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so let's write it gets many. So this all gets all. Yeah. So the get all function will just be so we the get all is like the KV store has an iterator. So we do we could iterate through the lists and we could return the data. So we could do something like this. We could say cons iterator iter equals, we'll say await kv the list. I want to list by prefix of the employee. So we could do I want to prefix this by the employee because this will cover this. And this must match with exactly what we have. So I could even copy this here, do it here. And probably in the future, you can assign this to a constant so you don't keep remembering and fix it on each and every place.
Okay.
Or we could even do that now. So cons employee prefix. And we can call employee prefix just any other place. So copy this, place it here. Save. So I'm prefixing this. Now this iter here is going to return, a promise, right? What we want to do is we want to call for now await. We want to await the data and do something like this. So let me do this. This is the structure. So I could do response. Okay, const response. Now, await const response, and wherever that response comes through, I'm going to return that response, right? I'm going to say I can return that response, or since each response is going to be, it's going through an iterator. So this is an iterator function. It's returning an iterator function.
Yeah.
Am I using that iterator function? I'm iterating through, and when I iterate through, I could say, const employee, which is going to be an empty array. When I go through each iterator, I could, push to that employee array and just return whenever I'm done with that. Right? So I'm going to say employee the push right? So place your push.
Won't we be able to just return the iterator? Like I thought that was already a list that we could just return.
No, I think no, it's not a list. It's actually a function.
Oh, oh, okay, all right, cool.
Right,
Let's
kind of
continue.
method. So we could do an employee that push wherever the response is, right? And at the end of the iterator, we could just do return the employees.
Okay, so that means you don't need to have their weights there in the key kv.list, do we?
Yes.
All right.
We are doing an expensive query in the kv list here. This could take some time, so we could take it up, or we need to have this. And this iterator is going to take time to iterate or show it, right? So
all right, cool.
For that.
Yeah, let's continue.
So we'll test this out, but let's just continue.
Yeah, let's finish up the.
So the guest many is going to be a very simple one. Return. We want to return their weights. The get many, because KB has the get many method.
Okay.
Right? And we're going to get many by the IDs. So this is going to be an array of IDs.
Okay. So the IDs will have the employee and the ID itself.
Yeah. Okay. yeah, definitely. We didn't consider that, so we do.
No, it's supposed to, because I can see that it takes a string that takes an array.
Yeah, a string of array. So it needs to have the employee.
Sorry, a string of array. A string of an array of array.
Yeah. So, but the problem is we're not enforcing that.
Yeah.
When this code is not aware, like the other parts of the code are not aware that this is going to be. So, we could type it differently. We say, I think we could say something like interface.
Are we using that on the service or the router or something? Are we using that method?
We're not using this on the router.
So we can just.
Yeah, we'll type it differently. So, or we could return this way. We could return whatever. Then in this array, we could iterate through and add to it the value and then push it. So let's just do that, right? I'm going to change this a bit. So I'm going to say.
So you want to map through the string array and add employee.
Here's a map. So preface. I'm going to return keys.
Okay.
I'm going to push this. And it means my get many function here. And the method calling the get many, any method calling the get many is going to have to change. So this is going to be an array of strange.
Okay.
Forever, right?
Yeah,
and
cool.
This faces that. And remove by, of course, this is same thing. You have the kv.delete.
Yeah.
And what it does, or this doesn't return anything. I think this equally returns. I think this doesn't return anything. It doesn't return anything meaningful. So yeah, it doesn't. So you could say after this, right? We just go ahead and say employee.removed, right? Return employee.removed. Now, one small fix for you, if you're watching this, all you could do is you could equally start an atomic transaction. Before you delete, you could verify that that data already exists, doesn't exist. Exists.
Yeah.
If it does exist, you could go ahead and delete it. If it doesn't, you just go like there's no employee with this ID, and that will save you the stress. So that could be a small assignment for you, or that works.
Yeah.
So I'm going to save this. Do we have any other thing? I don't think so. We implemented all these methods.
Yeah.
Okay, so time to test this out, right? If you look at the code, we have a front-end part, right? There's this small UI we use out just to test it, so we see what we have. I think I have one save file.
Yeah, you have an in-save file, main.ts. Okay, cool.
Okay, so in this, we'll have to go to the front end. We're going to go to the index of HTML. This is a simple HTML, so we're going to start this with the live server. So just to be clear, just so I'm starting this video through browser.
Can stop it and start it again to see where it. But that's your node, Deno.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a Deno.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can start it again. Yeah, so we have it running.
Okay, so
You can zoom in a bit. Very tiny from
so you
here.
can see I already have something saved
Yeah.
here, and I can delete this. If I delete it, it saves it, and it persists. Okay, so I'm going to enter Michael.
So this frontend has already implemented. Is currently calling those endpoints,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And trying to perform those CRUD operations like creating the contact, deleting the contact. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
already implements them, and I don't think we could demo the code, but I don't think that's important.
Yeah.
That's basic HTML CSS, so that's beyond the scope of this. Very
Yeah.
fast. So I'm going to call a weird number. I'm going to say something funny at gmail.com.
Yeah.
And his age, I'm going to say the person is 32, because why not? And I'm going to say probably the person is eating $5,000 or something.
Yeah.
And this should be a developer, right?
Yeah.
In moment of truth, let's
Save.
this. Good. Wonderful. So you save, it returns the data, and it displays here. And you can see
Yeah.
this is the data that was imputed. I could do this, I could call, let's say, Oliver.
Okay.
And I can see his email is whatever.
Can you use a real, or can you use something that looks close to real email?
Okay. Oliver at gmail.com.
Yeah.
I think I've never had the patience for that. Right? Or you're 43. Let's see the two, right?
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. You're earning $6,000 and you're probably a manager. I'm going to say the number is something around this.
Okay.
I'm going to say that. And that saves here.
Wow. Cool.
Cool. So we can delete this. We can say, Oliver is no longer our employee, and we can delete Oliver and the assistant.
Yeah, cool. So we've just been able to build a backend system for this using Deno. Yeah, that's cool.
I think I always pronounce it Deno, but it's actually Deno.
Yeah, it's Deno.
Yeah, it's Deno.
Yeah.
So you can see the cool functionalities of Deno, and how it supports high-level awaits, how we didn't have to do an npm install to install packages and all that.
Yeah.
All those complexity were removed. And this code here is the same code that will run in your browser. So it bridges that gap, right? Let's say we are writing JavaScript. I could literally copy the code and run it on my browser, and that should it bridges that gap of what you should run, what runs on your system and what runs in your browser, right? So there is almost the same code. There's no, I think there is this learning curve when you're moving from browser front end to Node.js, where you have to okay, what do I need to figure out and all that. Deno tells you, don't worry, we have that covered, and of course the just-in-time compilation is awesome as well.
Yeah.
That adds an extra layer of speed to it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't compile what it doesn't need.
Yeah, and a cool one, Deno does cross compiles. Like you can compile for Windows ESC, and also you can compile your project for Mac. Let's say you want to run it on Arrow, is it the Mac kind of processors as well as the Windows. So you can get an exe executable where you can just run your app as an executable on Windows. So that's cool. And one major thing I like about it is the fact that no node modules. You can silence node modules. I'm not a fan of node modules of trying to just this one very huge chunk of files, trying to manage them and manage dependencies and all that. With Deno, I find it really easy. And also you can see we're writing TypeScript. We did not actually do any setup for TypeScript, and everything just works out. And also it seems to be very fast, though this is a demo project, but I expect the same for larger projects where you try to do a rerun and all that.
Yeah, it's generally faster and lightweight because there's no crazy things you're loading. You're loading whatever you need, and it's just crazy fast. You can see when the server is starting, it's instantly you click enter and it's running for you, and everything works. So this is beautiful, right? Fun fact: if we should get let's say, I don't know, let's say 10,000 views on this video, we would use Deno on an enterprise level for a reward application, that will offer service to some whatever, right?
Yeah.
So please like this video, subscribe, and we'll start using Deno. So feel free to use this, in your next software.
Yeah, just to add a bit to the stream. So as you can see, with Deno, you can, of course, as Melody has said, you can see the docs. Where you with the docs is very self-explanatory. Like you could just go, and if you're already used to TypeScript and JavaScript, you can go through the docs and use Deno for whatever project you have. And also, Deno has a framework like Fresh. Fresh is like, if you think of it like Next.js, I suppose, having server and server-side code and front-end code for your project. So that's it. That's it, guys.
Yeah, that's it, guys. So thanks for attending today's jam. Today's jam was it was much anticipated, and it's finally here, and we have it. Given that we couldn't last time because of all the complexity and everything and connection issue. But we're here, we've had it, and we're happy. Subscribe to this channel because we have a lot of things we want to push out. We'll be doing more updates. Probably at some point we'll get to weekly updates where we're pushing videos, constant videos on good software engineering concepts and IoT. We're doing all that. We have all those in the pipeline, and we're working on those. That's going to be one of our videos. It's more, in the next, let's say, who knows, probably a month or thereabouts.
Yep.
We have IoT. We have, when we talk about IoT, we're talking about something that is reward you can use.
Yeah.
You can offer a good service. So they're not just a fan of building test projects or tech projects where you could use and you will never use them again or something. These are software tools, or these are code where you could apply to your reward concepts, use them. We're writing code in the same format where you have good modularity and all that, where these are things you do in an organization should you be hired to work in an organization and all that. So please subscribe to our channel,
and we'll see you next jam.
Right?
Bye.
Yes.